Welcome back. Watching that video, it seems that the more times change, the more things stay the same. I know from working with Ty that Doug and Abby and Rita continue to serve as close advisors and sounding boards on issues that arise. Thank you so much for that. JCRC is truly like the Hotel California. Before we go any further, I'd like to thank the JCRC team for their incredible work to bring together this outstanding program. In particular, I would like to thank our outstanding development director, Britton Camphouse. Is Britton here? Is she in the room? She's not. I'd also like to thank her team and those that have worked especially hard to make tonight happen. Please rise as I call your name, and hopefully you're here. Irene Hodes, Carol Ann Elliott, Serena Zen, and Carlos Martinez. And can the remainder of our extraordinary JCRC staff please join and accept our deep gratitude for your work. We'll have to bring them back in.
We also hope that you enjoyed that wonderful meal and had the opportunity to reconnect with friends and the larger JCRC community. It is our distinct privilege to celebrate three outstanding honorees this evening: Barbara and Ron Kaufman, the API Council, and Abigail Michelson Porth. Each of these outstanding honorees exemplifies the values and the long-time work of JCRC, ensuring a thriving Jewish future.
It is now my great privilege to introduce our mayor, Mayor London Breed. London Breed is the 45th mayor of San Francisco and the first African-American woman to serve in this role. She served previously for 6 years on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, including 3 years as president of the board. A longtime friend of our community through good times and bad, she has traveled with JCRC twice to Israel, once before entering public life when she led the African American Arts and Culture Complex, and just last year as mayor, leading the San Francisco Haifa Sister City delegation. We also appreciate her leadership since the rise of anti-Semitism post-October 7th, working with JCRC and Jewish agencies to ensure public safety and in rejecting the hatred we experienced inside City Hall in December and again in January. Please join us in welcoming Mayor Breed to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone feeling tonight? I don't know about you, but it's time for some joy in San Francisco. And how many of you loved hearing from a shogger? I appreciate her coming here to share the Ethiopian Jewish experience. We had a chance to meet her and hear her incredible story when we visit Israel a couple of months back last year now. The time is flying by. And I am just grateful that our office was able to bring her to San Francisco in order to make sure that the experience, that the Black Jewish experience is told. So we are grateful to have you here, Shagar, and thank you so much for being a champion and courageous and telling your story. I also want to take this opportunity to say thank you to our other elected leaders who are in the room with us today, including State Senator Scott Wiener, who you heard from earlier, our City Attorney David Chiu, Supervisors Raphael Mandelman and Myrna Melgar, and our Sheriff Paul Miyamoto. And a heartfelt congratulations to tonight's honorees, and Ron Kaufman and your family. Thank you so much for all the work you and Barbara have done over the years. And congratulations to my dear friend Abby Porth for her amazing award. And also, I know Dean and Callie are here somewhere from the API Council. Congratulations. It really is an honor to be here to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the JCRC and the incredible work that they have done to lift up the Jewish community and the Jewish community allies in the work that they have done. And I have been the beneficiary of not only the experiences I had from those trips, but the spirituality, the connection, the unity. When we came together and that experience of not only the people who were a part of those trips, but the people who we met along the way, it helped with a lot of the insight and understanding to what is happening in Israel and the people of Israel and their experiences and their stories. That's why it was so important to bring a Shagar to San Francisco, because I do think that it's important that we bond and we come together when we are able to share and build bridges and spend time with one another and be together. You know, what's important to me, which was always important to me growing up in San Francisco, my grandmother just was very strict. Some of you are probably parents or grandparents that are very strict too. And she basically came from the school of there's right and there's wrong. There's no in between. You treat people right, you do the right thing, and that was really the core value that she taught in me. And as a kid, I may not always delivered on that, but as an adult, I appreciate it more than ever because it is the guiding principle by which I use to manage and run this city. And what that means is in every decision that I make, in all the work that we do here, it is so important that every community feels safe, that every community feels supported, that every community feel protected. So it was, people think that, you know, it wasn't necessarily easy for me to stand up for this community when we saw the rise in anti-Semitism, but I did the same thing when we saw the rise in anti-Asian hate. I did the same thing when Black Lives Matter and all of us came together for so many of those occasions when other communities were under attack, which is why the JCRC is so important. I am committed to continuing to work with this community to do the extraordinary things we need to. In fact, last year when we visited Haifa, when we celebrated the 50th anniversary of our sister city relationship, many of the ideas that I brought to life in my State of the City address this past week came from how Haifa was able to revitalize its downtown with college campuses and students and a new life and new excitement for a new future. We know San Francisco has its challenges, but I know one thing about this city. Not only are we a resilient city, but we are a city that highlights and values our unity and values our differences and our different races, cultures, religions. That's what will make us strong. In light of all the challenges and the divisions, we are going to choose hope, Instead of choosing the darkness, we are going to choose light, and we're going to choose a better future for each and every one of us by continuing to build those bridges and come together, which is why JCRC is so important. The work that Ty Gregory and so many of the board members have been doing to bridge those gaps have been extraordinary, and I am grateful for the relationship that we have and will continue to have to move our city forward so that everyone feels that they are supported and protected in this city, especially in light of the challenges we're experiencing. So thank you all so much for being here tonight, and have a wonderful evening.
I have to start by first thanking Ron and Barbara for bringing one of my dearest friends and sister into the world, Karen Kaufman Perlman. Ron and Barbara have been pillars of our community for decades and champions of JCRC. Barbara has sat on many boards, including the JCCSF and Emmanuel twice. After hosting Call for Action on KCBS AM radio, she became a supervisor and president of the Board of Supervisors. Barbara served on the Federal Reserve Board's Consumer Advisory Council as chairwoman of the Bay Conservation and Development Commission and the MTA. In 2004, she was appointed regional director. In these roles, Barbara was very helpful to JCRC as a friendly voice on issues of concern to the Jewish community. Through his business, Ron has been working for decades to preserve and create historical reuse for the majority of the Old North waterfront area of San Francisco. Not only has he been a leader in the business community, but he's been a leader in the philanthropic community, serving on numerous boards, including, but not limited to, California Pacific Medical Center, our Federation, the Bernard Osher Foundation, JF&CS, the United Way, and UCSF Mount Zion. Barbara served on the JCRC, yes. Barbara served on the JCRC Council, and Ron and Barbara were early and longtime supporters of JCRC because of their passion for our work, building relationships between the Jewish community and the broader community.
It's a privilege to also be able to recognize Barbara and Ron Kaufman for their extensive contributions, which you've just heard about, to strengthen and improve the Jewish and general community over many, many years. Barbara and Ron are children of what is known as the greatest generation, born between two world wars, living in a time of great change, growing up in Wisconsin and Arizona. Their family priorities and business achievements always managed to include a work ethic that included time to assist those less fortunate. Ron was clearly influenced by his father's quiet assistance of the Haganah and the State of Israel from its inception. Growing up at a time of scarcity and sacrifice probably encouraged Ron's prodigious creativity. It includes diverse artistic projects as well as the most recent novel published in his 90s. Let us all reflect on the model of Ron and Barbara's leadership style, beginning with my favorite, endurance. Staying in for the long haul, never saying no. No job was too difficult or too menial. The courage to stand up for what they believed, often taking risks. Common sense and an effort to simplify the method in order to reach the goal quickly. Character, the ability to discern right from wrong in all their positions of power, and their ability to recognize the dignity and authenticity of the other. This city, this Jewish community in particular, and all of us have benefited from their deeds and from their example. For Ron and Barbara Kaufman understand, we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give.
It is with great pleasure that we award the JCRC Jewish Civic Leadership Award, inspired by Rita Semmel, with this beautiful tzedakah box by artist Amy Gallant, to Ron and Barbara Kaufman. Ron, can you please join us?
Phyllis and Jan, thank you so much for the wonderful things you said about us. None of them were true, but they have good imagination. I also especially want to thank those people who made generous contributions to JCRC in our honor. And if my comments would be just a few sentences, it is, we're here to honor JCRC. They are in the front line 24/7 to deal with probably the most, call it dangerous, anti-Semitic wave that has occurred, and we don't want it to progress into what historically was a disaster. Jan took a lot of the comments about Barbara I'd like to make. I'm sorry that she can't be here, but at age 50, she did start Call for Action, and probably there are people here of our generation who she corralled into working as volunteers there. That morphed into KCBS asked her to go on the air. She had at that time eventually the most popular 11 o'clock program in the Bay Area, and about 100,000 listeners every day. Following that, she felt, as I'm sure many of the people here, that city government needed changes and ran for supervisor, but it was citywide. Today, we have 11 districts. Her second time out, she got 125,000 votes. Today, a supervisor can get in with, I'm guessing, 4,000 or 5,000 in the district. So when Jan said that she coordinated with the JCRC, throughout her speaking, she made it very clear she was a member of the Jewish community. I know she was extremely popular in Chinatown because of what she would say is the Jewish families place emphasis on education, and that's exactly the way the Chinese families felt, and she was the second time out the largest vote getter in the Chinatown district. So going from that, after the 8 years as supervisor, she did chair the BCDC and, in my opinion, made some major changes there because it had been staff-run, and by the time she left, which is only a year later, it was commission-run. She served on the Golden Gate Bridge Authority, and I forgot to mention that as a supervisor, she spent 2 years redoing the city charter, cutting it from like 600 pages to 300 pages, and that was 2 years of hard work without having public hearings and time that was non-productive. She literally redid the city charter. And something that I learned recently, because at night she would come home and say, I really had so much aggravation during the day, I just want to read a book or take it easy. So we often didn't talk about the details of the work, but I found out recently that she had the legislation that got Doyle Drive going, and where Michael Painter did this wonderful job of redoing that whole area. And also, the other few months ago, I was talking with Dee Dee Woolsey, and Dee Dee said, well, did you know that Barbara was the one that did, I guess I'll call it legislation, that got the new, got us to going on the new DeYoung Museum. So she had a distinguished career and then wound up with 6 years working for Governor Schwarzenegger, and she said that's the most fun and the best time she's ever had, and especially when he would come and they would stop and get some pastries instead of going to meetings. So at any rate, thank you all for being here, and thank you for the honor.
Please welcome Rabbi Ryan Bauer of Congregation Emmanuel and David Chiu, San Francisco City Attorney.
Good evening, JCRC, and happy 75th birthday. So I first thought to start with the joke about a Chinese elected official and a rabbi who walk into a hotel bar. But this is a family-friendly event.
That's a great point. Solid point.
So what I would like to start is just to say how, given tonight's theme of bridging communities, how happy I was to learn that JCRC has chosen to uplift the bridges between our great Asian and Jewish communities by and uplifting our shared experiences. I would say during easier times, I learned about our shared experiences through 4 Jewish college roommates. About how at Christmas time we all ate at the exact same Chinese restaurants. About how we all value hard work and tradition and our family. And how none of us were ever good enough for our mothers. Because you didn't go to medical school. But let me say, we all know that we live in harder times. And I want to thank JCRC and your next honoree for working together, not only when it has been easy, but when it has been hard, especially during these incredibly painful and vulnerable times. After my first visit to Israel with JCRC, a profound experience that was led by none other than Abby Porth and Rabbi Kahn, thank you, I was asked who within my community stood and spoke with moral authority. And I was one of a number who suggested the API Council, which is a coalition of 57 nonprofit organizations tackling underserved needs, uplifting equity, bridging the vast ethnic and religious diversity within our API community. But I would say most notably, the API Council has led heroic efforts to fight the largest spike of anti-Asian hate in modern times. And I want to thank JCRC and all of you who have fought hate together. Anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-Asian hate, because you know full well that if they come for any of us and we don't speak out, the time may come when there is no one left to speak for us. Let me just conclude by saying it is the responsibility that we have as Californians and as Americans to refuse to believe that those who say that lasting peace and justice for all, here and everywhere, is impossible. I want to thank JCRC and the API Council for believing, for doing the work to transform our communities so that we can understand each other and grow in our humanity. Shalom. Thank you. And with that, the very good Rabbi.
You know, as David said, it is that understanding that if we don't stand up for each other, nobody will. And it was in the height of the Asian hate we were seeing across the country, but also in our city, that Ty took out an ad in the newspaper in Mandarin, and it says, "We know what it's like." Just to speak from our community to the Asian community, and then phone calls started to come in. And the relationship began to form. And I was lucky enough to be part of the relationship where Jewish leaders and Asian leaders of the API Council, we got on a plane, we went to New York, we began to get to know each other. And we would have first dinner together, and then became known as second dinner. We would be out till midnight, laughing, with tears coming down our face as we were eating in these restaurants, and in the daytime, hearing each other's stories. And then we went to DC. And in DC, where we had begun as two separate groups, we were no longer two separate groups, but we were one community as we stood with each other at the Holocaust Museum to hear our story. As we stood at the Japanese Internment Memorial in DC to hear our story. And then right before we left, we all got together and we said, this is incredibly special what we have. How are we going to support each other? And we bat around ideas. We weren't sure what we were going to do, but we knew we had to do something. And there's no way that I could have imagined that just a few months later, that outside of where we teach all the kids at Emmanuel, someone would spray, "Kill the Jews." And that the API Council and Cali would reach out and say, what can we do? We know what that's like. You know, what began as a newspaper ad to everybody as saying we know what it's like has changed because of this relationship, where now it's not just a newspaper ad, but it's looking eye to eye and soul to soul. So when we give out the Community Partner Award, I cannot imagine a more incredible community to give it out to, who is standing with us side by side in these moments as we build together. So it is my deep honor to invite up Callie Wong and the API Council.
David, for that warm introduction and welcome. Thank you to JCRC Bay Area for this incredible honor, and I'm so excited to be here tonight to accept the award on behalf of the council. I just want to give a shout out to some of our members who are here with us tonight: John, Annie, Sarah, Dean, and Marilee. Here's a little more about our 57-member coalition. We ensure that underserved Asian and Pacific Islanders' needs are engaged, addressed, and represented in San Francisco. We also work to ensure that policies, research, and data collection, and funding allocations are equitable. In many ways, we are a community relations organization like JCRC. But whereas JCRC is celebrating 75 years tonight, we will be celebrating 10 years come May. We are basically the Asian version of JCRC, but younger, much younger. At the height of the pandemic, with hate crimes on the rise, triggered by anti-Asian rhetoric, API Council and JCRC were introduced by our city attorney and friend, David Chiu. Rooted in our respective communities' shared experience of being scapegoated during times of international crisis, we looked for opportunities for joint advocacy in the spirit of solidarity. This led to the formation of the very first Jewish AAPI Solidarity Delegation, during which we traveled together to New York City and DC to deepen our mutual understandings of each other's communities' unique histories, immigration stories, and culture. This recognition tonight underscores our commitment at the Council to build relationships across ethnic groups and look for opportunities for communities to learn from each other's lived experiences. We stand rooted in denouncing hate, hostility, and blame towards community members, and we commit ourselves to building a better future as a collective. This award reflects our shared commitments, and we thank JCRC for its recognition. Thank you.
Please welcome Rabbi Doug Kahn, Executive Director Emeritus of JCRC Bay Area and tonight's event co-chair.
Hello again. Nearly 25 years ago, a young woman who recently moved to San Francisco with her husband, Jason, walked into my office for an informational interview. Translation, we didn't have a job opening, but I wanted to be welcoming to someone with a passion for Jewish community relations. The person sitting in my office exuded instant superstar potential, and I knew in that moment I had to piece together some kind of job that would bring Abby Michelson Porth to the JCRC. The rest is history. A remarkable 20-year run at JCRC. During my tenure, I had the privilege of watching Abby in action on a daily basis, and that included encouraging her to flex her strategic and visionary muscles. Here are just 3 examples, and there could be many, of Abby's strategic visionary leadership with major community-wide impact. Example number 1, mounting a stunningly successful effort to stop an anti-circumcision initiative in its tracks in San Francisco by becoming an instant expert, which included getting the measure kicked off the ballot. Thank you, Michael Jacobs, for your pro bono work, and ultimately a new state law banning local communities from passing anti-circumcision initiatives. Number 2, designing a civil discourse initiative after a major community brouhaha that caused serious divisions within and beyond Jewish institutions, called the Year of Civil Discourse Initiative, that became a national model and that continues to help our community from tearing itself apart 15 years later. And number 3, initiating sophisticated polling of Bay Area attitudes on Israel and the BDS movement, and I'm talking about a number of years ago, which led to creation of JCRC's Invest in Peace initiative, offering a positive alternative to divestment for long-standing allies. And with these and other major initiatives, what really made Abby stand out during her tenure at JCRC, from her first day of service to her service as executive director, was a rare combination of qualities: visionary leadership coupled with superb people skills, strategic thinker coupled with a detailed checklist approach to ensure that all bases were covered, exceptional focus coupled with an ability to inject humor when it was sorely needed in a pressure cooker environment. Watching Abby in action, whether during a JCRC Israel seminar for non-Jewish leaders or taking on the most messy community issues, was to have full confidence that the work would be done at the highest level, including by quickly becoming an expert on any subject, and it was to be genuinely inspired on a daily basis. To see that leadership in action for 20 years at JCRC was an unforgettable gift for me and indeed for the entire Jewish and broader community. And when Abby decided to take on a new challenge as executive director of the Lisa Stone Pritzker Family Foundation, it was certain she would continue to make an unforgettable contribution in numerous ways. Indeed, Lisa commented that Abby's years of JCRC's experience navigating complex and often unexpected situations helped the foundation adapt its work and make a meaningful difference. And she added, Abby is someone of the highest character, and her values-driven approach, exceptional relationship-building skills, and drive have made the foundation's work more impactful than ever. Abby, what a gift and privilege to work side by side and to witness your stellar leadership and your passion for the highest standards of excellence, integrity, and impact at JCRC and beyond. For all these reasons and many more, it is a great honor to be co-presenter of the JCRC Distinguished Leadership Award to my esteemed colleague and dear friend, Abby Porth.
Hi, everyone. I am honored to co-present this award to Abby Porth. Actually, I am a bit nervous. There's a lot of you, and it's been a long night. I feel a little bit like a comedian who's about to get heckled by the crowd.
What do you know about Abby?
Actually, husband. I've witnessed Abby's extraordinary leadership since she was a teen. In high school, she held leadership positions in B'nai B'rith Girls and was honored by the International B'nai B'rith Youth Organization with their Distinguished Alumna Award. In college and graduate school at Brandeis University, she was involved in the campus Hillel and served as a Kahn summer intern at APAC in San Francisco. She was even a cheerleader in high school and college. Throughout her life, Abby has been deeply involved in giving back to the Jewish community.
Debbie, what do you even know about the Jewish community? You don't even belong to a synagogue.
It's a good bit, right? What I know about the Jewish community is that Abby embodies Jewish values full force. In fact, heckling Rabbi, Abby served on the board of your synagogue, Temple Emmanuel, and on the search committee that hired several rabbis at your synagogue. And I am honored to share one of Abby's great accomplishments as co-founders together of the Memory Garden, the nation's first Jewish sacred space for fertility loss and infertility. But Abby's commitment to Jewish values extends beyond the Jewish community. She is also an active and engaged civic leader.
Do you even know what a civic leader is?
Well, Senator Wiener, what I do know is that Abby honed her civic leadership skills at the Anti-Defamation League, where she ran a juvenile hate crimes program that focused on education and rehabilitation. She served on the board of Head Start and the San Francisco Interfaith Coalition, and was involved in several multi-faith efforts that addressed racial disparities and economic challenges. Her civic leadership was also recognized by the mayor, who appointed Abby to the San Francisco Human Rights Commission. But before anyone else heckles me, I will end by saying that Abby has had a transformative and long-lasting impact on our community and is incredibly deserving of this award. Please join me in celebrating my friend, our friend, Abby Porth.
Oh my gosh, wow. Doug and Debbie, thank you both. I say to them both frequently, and I'm just gonna say it for everyone to hear, I don't know what I did to deserve having the two of them in my life. I feel incredibly grateful for your friendship and your mentorship. I thought about sharing a story tonight that encapsulates JCRC and what I love so much about the organization, but it was hard to think about just one story. In fact, I'm looking around the room tonight and I am seeing so many stories. I feel flooded. I have seen tonight council members who helped to shape the advocacy agenda for the organization, leading to legislation that improves the quality of life, not just for the Jewish community, but for all Californians. I've seen around the room tonight so many of you who have testified at City Hall all across the Bay Area, and I think about all of the times that we prevailed. I've seen the rabbis, the physicians, the pollsters, the lawyers who helped us defeat the ballot measure that would have criminalized infant male circumcision. And tonight I've seen the university faculty and administrators who have worked so hard to make Jewish students feel safe on college campuses across the Bay Area. I've seen all of you who've turned out at rallies, come to Advocacy Day in Sacramento, all of the Waging Democracy events and interfaith seders, and put your Jewish values to work. And so many of you, every day, wear your Jewish hearts on your sleeve, whether at your workplace or in your neighborhood. You are all ambassadors, helping make sure that our community is understood. And it isn't easy, particularly at this moment. These stories that have been flooding me, this work that all of you do, is the embodiment of the Jewish value tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Justice. Justice shall we pursue. When we each make a small contribution toward justice, the communal effort results in what we never alone could have achieved. To all of our allies who are here tonight, thank you. We're grateful for your support. To my fellow awardees, to Barbara and to Ron Kaufman, to Callie and the entire API Council, I'm really humbled to be honored alongside you this evening. I'm fortunate to be surrounded by my extraordinary parents, my brother, my sister-in-law, my husband Jason, who I think is perhaps one of the most skilled and indefatigable emissaries for the Jewish people. Our daughter Eve, who I think someday, I hope, will rule the world. And unfortunately, our son Jonah is not here tonight. He actually just landed in Israel a few hours ago. He's there to volunteer for a week. And I think I must be the luckiest person alive to have all of you in my life, so thank you. I also want to thank Lisa Pritzker, whom I have the enormous pleasure of working with. Lisa, you have a heart of gold. JCRC, as you've all heard, has only had 5 executive directors in 75 years, and I am humbled to be among them. And it is so extraordinary that we have 4 here tonight. I see Rita, a mere 102 years old, young. Rita set the foundation for JCRC's extraordinary interfaith and cross-cultural coalition work. Doug, a master of consensus building, whose extraordinary skill in diplomacy built JCRC into the fine advocacy organization that it is today. And I have seen Ty tonight, who started at JCRC during the pandemic and has been a tireless leader every single day since. Thank you, Ty. I just want to close, because I know it's been a long evening. I just want to close with one little thing and just say I was recently in a meeting where somebody asked about another organization, does this organization meet the demands of the moment? And the question itself has stayed with me. I think what they were asking was if the organization is insightful, is it brave, is it diligent, strategic, and is it impactful? And I have to tell you that in my 20 years at JCRC, I always felt that the organization was meeting the demands of the moment, whether it was responding to a challenging situation or proactively advocating for social change, all with a deep sense of humanity and compassion and a focus on impact. And now, a step removed and 4 years of perspective, I see it even more clearly. So to Jan and the board of directors, to Ty and the entire awesome professional team, you are meeting the demands of the moment. So on behalf of us all, thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Please welcome back Ty Gregory, CEO, JCRC Bay Area.
Mazel tov, Abby, Mazel tov, Callie, and the API Council, Ron and Barbara, congratulations. I took on this job 4 years ago, and I was on a plane to the last JCRC Gala, Behind the Scenes 2020. I landed San Francisco, excited to introduce myself as the next executive director of JCRC. I opened up my phone, and there's a tweet from Mayor Breed that says, "We're shutting San Francisco down." Thanks, Mayor. And that's when I knew that I was in for a different experience than I expected. The pandemic taught a lot about hatred and isolation and coming together. And it was then that we understood that JCRC needed to evolve as an organization, that we needed to be more out front, the vocal spokespeople for the Jewish community, to make sure that the behind-the-scenes work that Doug and Abby and Rita built was complemented with a moral voice inside the Jewish community talking about who we are and what our values are. And I believe that October 7th confirmed that that was the right decision. Before I move on, I want to acknowledge my incredible predecessors, Abby, Doug, Rita, and Earl of blessed memory, because this work is about building for the next generation. I also want to thank my partner in crime, Joyce Asiski, the head of the Federation, who's been doing a tremendous job. And I need to give a shout out to my family in the back of the room, my mom, my aunt and uncle, Mikey and Dale, and my boyfriend, Ken. Thank you for being here. I love you. My friend Chen Arieli is the deputy mayor of Tel Aviv, and she likes to talk about Tel Aviv as a lighthouse. And I see San Francisco as much of the same way. This has been a place for immigrants, African Americans, Asian Americans, LGBTQ Americans, Jewish Americans, to be safe, to be who they are. And there have been times where that light has been dimmed. And today, sometimes as a Jewish community, it feels like that light is flickering. JCRC's mission has been, is, and will always be very simple. Don't let the light go out. My predecessors have been doing the work for generations. In the 1940s, helping to build the state of Israel, resettling Holocaust survivors. In the 1960s, standing up for the civil rights movement. In the 80s, to resettle Soviet Jewry escaping the Soviet Union. In the 80s and 90s, navigating the AIDS crisis, dealing with Black Lives Matter, the recent surge in Asian hate, and now the rise of anti-Semitism post-October 7th. Wherever hate has appeared, we've been there, and we will be there. And now it's our job to be there for the next generation. As you've seen from all of the people on stage tonight, there's no substitute for building real, genuine relationships. We have done everything we can to step up our crisis response. And I want to be honest with you, the report card has been spotty. There have been times when protesters have overrun city halls spewing hatred. There have been times where school districts have let our kids down. But for every challenge that we've found, there have been leaders like London Breed, JCRC, San Francisco supervisors, civic leaders from different communities that have stood up for us and had our backs, and we need to lift them up too. Let's give them a round of applause. So while we've had a number of challenges, the pattern is also clear. Where JCRC and the Jewish community have had relationships, our track record since October 7th has been almost perfect. And so my message to you is this. It is tempting to turn inward in a time of crisis when we feel alone, like not enough people are standing up for us. We can never fall to that temptation, because building relationships and coalitions and fighting for social justice works. It has worked, it will work. The solution is more relationship building, more coalition building, more fighting for our neighbors as we expect them for us, more JCRC. JCRC needs to grow, and we need to grow fast. We're a 75-year organization. That makes us a legacy organization, but the truth is, we are far smaller than our neighboring Jewish legacy organizations. Our annual budget as an organization for community relations is less than $5 million a year. We don't need to grow marginally, we need to grow exponentially, and I think all of us understand how the past few months have underscored that. I challenge you to find an organization that punches above its weight like JCRC here in the Bay Area or across the country in the Jewish community. We have a stellar team and a stellar leadership that punches above its weight. We have a stellar Jewish community here in the Bay Area that punches above its weight, and we have a stellar city and a stellar region that also punches above its weight in the country. And as I said earlier in the night, we have a second solemn duty, because what happens here in the Bay Area spreads like wildfire. And if we don't stop the hatred that's come to our shores, in the way that the far right at Charlottesville has been inspired to take off their mask, October 7th has inspired those on the far left to take off their mask. And if we can't stop this here, our Jewish friends and family in other parts of the country will be seeing what we see today tomorrow. That's a lot of burden, that's a lot of responsibility, but together we have to be up to the challenge. And that's where I return to where I started, the lighthouse. The reason that I'm confident that we will meet today's challenges is because of everyone here. Our scores and scores of allies who spoke to you today and that have been in community with us. The unprecedented Jewish turnout and grassroots organizing. Together, we will keep the lighthouse on. We must keep the light on. Friends, we've raised more than $1 million tonight, and we're turning to you to raise more. This is where peer pressure comes in. Included in your program is a pledge card, and we're going to put the QR code on stage. We're hoping for your generous support tonight. We have one mission, and we will hope you join us. Don't let the light go out. Thank you very much.
We have now reached the end of our program, folks. Thank you so much for spending a large part of your Sunday with us. Your support inspires JCRC efforts, and we're so grateful to all of you, both longtime supporters as well as new friends. JCRC's work in support of a just society in which all people thrive could not succeed without the support of the people here tonight. A few thanks, Kate Taffel and Do Good Events for providing event coordination, and for the helpful folks here at the Plaza Hotel. Special thanks to Susie Drell and Jock Chairs for the films they made, and most importantly to Ty Gregory, JCRC CFO, Development Director Britton Camphouse, and the entire JCR staff for their extraordinary leadership and efforts in doing the work they do every day while still producing the event. Drive home safely. Thanks for coming.